on the screen the actual notes and stuff that from the other. And I haven't really mastered all the.
No worries. I'm actually going to share, because I think this might be the most relevant to our discussion, the OSB standards, and I've got the one from the Dropbox pulled up, and I did this with one of the other groups, and it seemed to work pretty good. What I think, and let me know if you all think that we should do something different, but this might be an efficient way to work through some stuff. Apparently you can apply stamps in PDFs. And so what I'm thinking is we can go through and we can mark which of these we think are black letter and which are best practices. And that might be an efficient way to get through a lot of material. And if there's stuff that we need to discuss further, we can either discuss it or we can like punt. We can get as much low-hanging fruit through as possible and come back to things. What do you guys think?
I just want to make sure I'm looking at the same thing. Yep. Okay. I got it.
Yeah, the OSB 2017.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I looked through them in preparation for this meeting to see if there was anything jumping out. I know, Tara, you helped write these, right? Am I right? You were on that committee?
I was. It was a big committee, but I was on it.
They're pretty comprehensive. My number one suggestion is that maybe first things first, because from my perspective, they're very comprehensive and complete.
I would agree.
But we need to understand if anything has changed in, what is it? 8 years, not 10, 8 years?
It's 8 years. You got the math right. It's 8.
It's based heavily off of ABA, maybe not ABA, but
it's actually like a different state, like Oklahoma or something. But my concern is that our standards and ABA standards have differences. And that you know, and when we were writing this and whatever, I don't think that we were analyzing ABA as well, or we purposely did something different, which I don't remember what that purpose was, but that is a concern of mine. I want our standards of practice to be consistent with ABA. And if they are more strict, then I want us to say why they are more strict.
Okay.
And my question is, do we want, well, first question is they have to comply with the current ethics rules, right? And there's some citations, including the rules of professional conduct or whatever the acronym is. And we should make sure, can we get, Kevin, do you have a law student that can go through and then just check those citations and make sure those citations are the current law of Oregon? If we're building off of that, that would be a quick step that someone concretely could do.
I don't have a law student. That person is going to be me.
Well, then Kevin, don't just see if the citations are accurate, but let's just do I mean, you probably have access to Westlaw and big things that I don't have, but let's just do a search between 2017 and 2025, because there is a new ethics opinion, and by new, maybe 2023 or so, there are some other, there are updates. I mean,
which one are you? Okay. I can certainly take a look. I can go through the bar ethics website and see what
the goal is. That the bar standards would be, if I looked, you said last time, Kevin, the bar standards would be the floor, the contractual obligation that we have.
So I don't know if you got the email that I sent shortly after our last meeting. I had to revise that statement a little bit.
I'm not sure I did. Can you resend it? It'll be the top of my list.
Sure, I can try to.
I was just looking at my notes from the last meeting.
My emails.
I totally was going to say, hey, I'm watching your emails. Watch out. Take it away. You may not want that.
Let's see. Yeah, I can resend it to you, Don. Give me just a sec. What's the email from me? That one. Nope, not
and
that one.
I would like to propose that as we set standards for lawyers, we want, of course, them to meet the ethics rules, the best practices, standards. But we also need to be cognizant of the standards in our competition that our competition has, right? Because Washington State is where lawyers would leave Oregon to go and work, right? And they, as you know, there is a new Supreme Court order, and they get the benefits that state employees get. They get paid more, right? And I don't know what California is, but Northern California, California would be another state that is in competition for our lawyers, right? People get out of law school, they love the West Coast. Where are they going to work? Young lawyers with student debt, people trying to build careers.
So
we should know what they say.
Well, in Idaho, we got people. Sorry, Kevin.
And I will note that we are definitely aware of the Washington, the new Washington Supreme Court order. I'm not as familiar with anything going on in California, but I mean, we can be mindful of that, but I also feel like personally that the level of representation and the standards have to be what they are. But I do get what you're saying. I just don't know that that's something that we can deal with too heavily in this work group.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something to look at what they think was important important, and what their lawyers are contracted to, how their lawyers are contracted to engage. And I pulled them, and I think one of them did reference the ABA standards. But
you mean the like some California performance standards? Because I have the caseload standards from 2008 from California.
There is this one of them. Let me see if I got the states. So California has a rule, and inside the rule says how you should practice. It's very brief.
Okay.
It's not nearly as detailed as ours.
Gotcha.
And then it gives their qualification rules, and then it talks about the standards that they have to live up to.
Well, and but
I'm really digressing, I think. Sorry.
Well, I mean, it's relevant to the conversation. Like, so caseload standards are, I see where you're coming from, and to a degree, one of the utilities of these performance standards is setting what are people supposed to be doing on cases, and we can then use that information to drive caseload standards.
Oh yeah, I'm not suggesting that a specific caseload should be here. I see it the way you see it. Understanding what other states that have caseload standards and that border us and that are our direct competition.
Yeah.
What standards they value and expect their lawyers to work at can be informative.
Yeah. Okay. And we've got a bunch of different states in the Dropbox. We've got standards from California, North Carolina, Alabama, Montana, Arizona, New York. Like I made a concerted effort to go to a bunch of jurisdictions to try and find as many different practice standards as I could. Oddly, Montana has a lot of written information about representation standards for kids specifically. So, anyways, okay, I do know that when we pulled from PCRP, when we pulled the practice standard, the number 80 from Washington, that was not, that didn't take into account that the Washington program is parents only. Representing kids wasn't a part of that.
Lowered their numbers. My understanding is their current expectation, assuming you have nothing but parents, number has lowered.
I am not familiar with that, but I also would not be surprised. I know NAC National Association of Counsel for Children recommends between 40 and 60, depending on how extensive the attorney's representation is anticipated to be. Okay, but so does everybody like the idea of going through the bar standards and just kind of thumbs up, thumbs down, like wherever the, not even like a thumbs up, thumbs down, just what's black letter and what is, and I will say we don't need to pull all of the various action stuff in. There's a lot of explanation that I'm not anticipating that we would necessarily pull. These are very, very thorough. Y'all did a good job 8 years ago. And I think it's a great foundation, but I don't think we need to be quite as in-depth on this. Tara.
So I think, and I'm sorry I didn't think about this before today.
Sure.
I think it'd be very helpful if we had our 2017 standard side by side with the ABA standard. And maybe you can share screen and do that. And I'm not talking about all of it, but specifically ABA and regarding a lawyer for the child.
Oh,
I also say this because in domestic relations court, the statute says if the child wants a lawyer, the court shall appoint. I understand that we all hear a dependency, but the reality is that when somebody gets appointed to a child who's never done it, right? They look at the ABA, they look at Oregon, and then they call me and others, I'm sure. But I'm just saying, I get a lot of calls and to say, well, there's a conflict. Which one do I follow? So I would like us to see if we can be consistent. And I'm sorry, I can't even think right this second of the difference, but I think it has to do with.
Do you know which year the ABA child representation came out? Because I have the 2023 standards for attorneys representing parents. Oh, here it is. Wait, you can't be. Are you talking about the 90s, the ones from 1996?
I don't know what year they were talking about, but it was about the child.
I pulled them up this week, so let me see if it has a date on it. I just got them off the ABA website. Let me see if the end of it has a date. Kevin, if we agree on a process of thumbs up, thumbs down, black letter kind of stuff, would it be more efficient instead of us all sitting here as a group doing that, each of us, because we're all going to talk about our opinion, if we each go through, make a markup, and only where we disagree have conversation?
I love that idea because our 2017 group, you guys, it went forever and it was very long.
I am familiar with how lengthy the work groups can go when there's long. So and I don't disagree. I have always found it to be far more efficient for everybody to submit comments in writing prior to a work group meeting, and then we can discuss differences at the work group meeting instead of trying to draft language in the middle of a work group meeting, which leaves several people sitting with very little to do. So I'm happy to follow that suggestion. I have no problem with saying y'all have homework. And if we can go through this and people can give their thoughts. Does it feel so I know PDFs can have comments on them. Does it feel more appropriate for folks to just leave comments on the PDF? Because we have a version in the Dropbox of the 2017 standards. And if everybody's comfortable leaving comment, can everybody actually leave comments on that? Does that work?
I don't know. I've not done shit like that before.
Well, so before I would absolutely say before we leave this meeting, everybody who's on the call should probably go ahead, try and open up that document and leave a comment and see if I see it. Because the one thing I'm not sure of is whether things that you do on your computer will necessarily show up in the Dropbox, because I'm not positive that the link goes both directions.
What if we I mean, that's a pretty efficient way to do it. Dropbox, I have my frustrations with Dropbox, I gotta tell you.
Yeah.
In Teams, where in Teams well, I don't know what other people.
I tried giving people stuff through Teams. I forget if it was this work group or a different one, but it was within the last 2 weeks and no one could access it. It would show up in the chat as somebody has shared a document, but you try and click on it and it would say, no, you don't have permission.
How cumbersome is it? How cumbersome is it if we do it this way? Everybody has their own PDF. Everybody has their own way of doing it. I have my own PDF of this standard up. If I go through it, I put my own comments my way, the way I do it. I think you guys have seen that before, because what I do is I use a highlight in a comment box. I send it to the group. Everybody else can do their own, send it. And then when we're all talking, Kevin, you can facilitate by saying, looks like the only person that disagreed that this should be here is this one, or everybody agreed with this one. Everybody agreed with this one. And that way we don't.
I kind of think, because that part, I think we're kind of making it complicated. I think we can all do the 2017. Like, we can all read it the way we're comfortable. I mean, frankly, I'm going to print it and highlight it and make my comments. However, if we're really talking about a thumbs up, thumbs down, I think we can just say, as we go through, did anybody have a thumbs down? Or, you know what I mean? Like, I think,
Yeah.
Kevin, you could facilitate that super easy, and then we could just share that.
Well, so Tara, your way works perfectly fine for me. Like, I'll say, like, I like the idea of doing it as a printed as well. And then if you can scan it back into digital format and then that way, if we just want to send them around by email. So our next, because if the Dropbox doesn't work that way, and I don't know that you guys will be able to add anything to the Dropbox. That's one thing I'm pretty sure we didn't grant permission for, and in part because, okay, Dawn, that's what I thought. That's the one that I have.
That makes sense, because that would be, sorry, go ahead.
I'm pretty sure we didn't allow people outside the organization to upload documents into Dropbox, because that would be a security issue for our IT department. But if you send it through email, it goes through our like bad stuff screening filter. And so that should work. Does that work?
So then I love it if you just send me what you want me to look at, not a Dropbox, just send me that document. I'm going to print it, do my stuff, then I'll scan it back to you, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm checking the number of pages for child rep. So child rep pages looks to be about 40, 46, could be close to 50 pages. Yeah, 50 pages, exactly. Jesus.
I'm going to need a month.
About just
I can't get that done in 2 weeks. I'm sorry.
Well, and I mean, our next meeting is ostensibly next week, right? I'm not expecting everybody's going to be able to get, but that's because we bumped it forward because people weren't going to be around the week of the 4th of July, I think.
Can we commit to 20? How many pages can people realistically commit to? And then we can just find a stop point, because it goes like, it's like standard 4 is at page 21. So could we commit to doing through standard 3, which ends on page 20? That's 20 pages in a week.
I'm a student. If the teacher tells me to do my damn homework, I'm going to do it. So you give me a rule.
Jen Jen's had her hand up for a bit, so I want to check and make sure that we've got her input too.
So as we're going through all of this stuff, if I remember correctly, what we're looking for, just as a refresher for everybody, is what is the standard that you absolutely have to meet? And then what is the, hey, here's like a description of how you would meet it, and here's like a best practices kind of a guide, or like tips and tricks for how to do that. Yep. So as we're going through that, the document as written from 2017 is very comprehensive, I think was the word used. Yep. I would say cumbersome. It's hard to get through at times. So are we trying to streamline this as well to make it easier to understand?
Sure. I mean,
Okay.
back when Shannon was the leader for our team, that was one of the kind of goals that she had said for us internally was the OSB standards are great, but they're bulky, they're cumbersome, they over explain a lot of stuff. If we can streamline them, and I will tell you, the other groups, the standards are not going to be nearly as verbose as these. Like they are very streamlined, they're very direct, they have specifics, and they're very concise. We're looking at potentially having the criminal standards out at the end of July. So.
Well, question, because I would definitely agree to streamline this, and yes, I can read 20 pages, but question, Kevin, like,
Sure.
would theirs, the criminal section, for example, are they as thorough as, hey, don't forget to follow the rules of professional conduct? I mean, that goes for all section groups. So I don't know if, I mean, I do recall when we created this, and I agree, cumbersome, I'm great streamlining them. However, one of the points was to give people the resources to make sure, like we were talking about, when you're starting, when you get appointed, like what are all the things you should know?
So I think we can choose where and how we want to streamline. And what are the things that you should know in order to start out on this is probably an area we don't want to streamline. Unless you think that there's superfluous stuff in there, and I doubt that there is.
Can
But
we do this?
Sure.
Oh, go ahead, Kevin. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Dawn.
I mean, the black letter on this seems to stand out. Like, these are the standards. If you contract with us, this is what we expect of you.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the sentences could be, follow all the Oregon rules of follow
Mm-hmm.
the rules of professional responsibility. Here's the site. Be familiar with, and then we could end it with a reference to what I perceive to be a very good treatise on how to be a great dependency lawyer with good references in the back. There's great checklists back there and stuff. And that could be a footnote.
Sure.
And it could be focused on whether this black letter stuff, behaviors or standards are all we put in there. And we want to add or change any of them because the law has changed.
So I think there's going to be
we need to be, we believe that to contract to do public defense work, you need to do it differently now because we've learned and grown or whatever in the last 5 years.
So do we at this point have consensus that we're still going to meet next week? We want to get through what you said, 20 pages, which
standard 3.
So to the end of standard 3, standard 4 begins on page 21. So between now and next week, if we can get through that, mark what you think is black letter and what are best practices. If there are things you want to add, make notes to that effect. If there are things that you think don't need to be a part of it at all, make notes to that effect. And we're good for meeting back next week to go over those and resolve any differences. Is that what, okay. Are we good with a Monday end of business timeline for that so that we have a little, or maybe Tuesday end of business? Since we're meeting on Wednesday, what I want is for everybody to have an opportunity to at least see what other people have said before we meet so that we're prepared for a discussion Wednesday night.
How about noon on Tuesday? Could people commit to noon on Tuesday or 1 on Tuesday?
I'm going to do my best. That's all. Yeah.
I'm going to try and bang it out tonight because I don't have any time over the weekend. So yeah, Tuesday's fine.
Yeah, mine will also be in before the weekend.
Okay.
Or before Tuesday.
Mine won't be in before the weekend, but I'm still going to get it to you.
Fair enough. All right.
I'll be an hour past the deadline.
I'll say I'll say deadline is noon on Tuesday, but it's a soft deadline. If you're late, we'll just hopefully have already reviewed everyone else's and we're good. Okay, cool. I will send out an email tomorrow morning. With that, I will include a copy of the 2017 standards so that if you're having trouble getting the Dropbox, it's there, and you can work from it from there. Anything, I mean, this is a short meeting, but it sounds like we've actually hit on how to do this pretty efficiently. So is there anything else anybody wants to chat about before we break for the day?
Nope.
Cool. Y'all have a great dinner. Have a great weekend. Have a great Juneteenth tomorrow, and I will see you all next week.
All righty. I'm gonna use my
Thank
30
you.
minutes to bang it out.
All right. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.